All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode, number 378 here of Stu and the Nun. And I'm so glad and excited to have a long time back, almost 5 years, to about a month shy of 5 years since we had Doug on the last time. Yeah. Glad to welcome Doug Taurel back on the show. Hey, Doug, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, man. Nice to see you again, Stu.
Yeah, love seeing bald men represent. So that works. Every time I see pictures of you and I get, great professional shots of like from your emails, I go, man, if I shave my beard, I bet I'd look like Doug. I mean, I bet I'd be a good looking cat like that. So.
You don't want to do that now.
But yeah, so it's we don't have Nunn with us. He's running a hot business down in Cabo San Lucas, so he's not able to join us. But so you got me and Rob tonight. But yeah, good to have you back on here on a very special day and episode. Number 378. And but before we get going too much, can you kind of give our viewers and listeners just a little bit of background of kind of who you are and what you do?
Well, my name is Douglas. I'm an actor, producer, and a writer. And how I got to this podcast is I was in the North Towers when 9/11 happened. And I was in Lower Manhattan, and I saw the whole thing, got inspired to write a play called The American Soldier. And from that play, it's a long journey how to create it, and finally got it up. And since I started performing it in 2015, kind of professionally, and since then it's been to about 35, 40 cities, 35, 40 states. Been in the Kennedy Center 3 times, Library of Congress, Off-Broadway a couple of times. It's going back to Off-Broadway, and you can find me on IMDb. I've done a lot of TV shows also in the middle of that. But this play inspired a TV series called Landing Home, which is also based off on veterans coming back home. And, when I got this play up, I thought it was going to be a one-time deal. And, here I am on the 24th anniversary of 9/11. I'm still talking about it.
Yeah. It's it is something, like you said, it kind of has went probably a lot longer than you ever could imagine. I imagine you thought it'd be like a short little appetite for it. And people would get, want to move
on.
This, but the demand.
I thought it was going to be once. I literally thought it was going to be one time. I had, I struggled getting it up. No one knew what it was, no one knew what to do with it. I didn't know what to do with it. I was just researching letters because I became really kind of addicted to what was happening in the Middle East and reading about guys. At that time, it was mostly guys being talked about in the papers, but guys who couldn't pay their bills, doing multiple deployments. The suicide rate was just being talked about, and I just wanted to give it struck an empathy chord in me, and I wanted to give vets a voice, and I wanted to get it up. And so when I finally got it up, I've been working on it since probably 2007, 2006, and I finally got it up in 2015. So you can imagine 2014 really is when I first got it up. And when I finally performed it for 8 people in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, I was just like, finally, it's done. I got it up and it's over with. And I never forget, a Gold Star sister came up to me after that performance and she said, I think you're onto something very special and I hope you don't stop. And I think of her all the time. I never got her name. And yeah, so here I am. I did think it was going to be one time.
That's quite an inspiration, though, to keep going. And yeah, I mean, it reminds me. I think you could remind me, but I mean, your story is so similar to our good friend Scott Mann, who I think I introduced you to, or made you. I made some connections.
Yeah, I think you might have been introduced. I know Scott now,
Yeah.
and he's going to be on my podcast, I think, in about a month. And he's been on before. And you know, Scott reached out to me a long time ago. A long time ago, and I think at that time he was just getting his play Last Out up.
Yep. Yeah.
And you know, we connected, and we've always kind of crossed. Our paths are crossed, and he finally saw my play 2 years ago or a year ago. No, last year. I think it was last year, almost 2 years ago. But he saw it in Detroit in the winter. He came up and he flew up and saw it, and it was great. It was really special for him to come up and see it, and it was quite an honor for me to do the play in front of him. And I brought him up in the Q&A and he answered questions, and it was cool. It was a really cool time.
Yeah. I mean, I saw yours first before I knew who Scott was, and then I saw his, and I was like, oh man, I'm like, this is so close. And I said, but you know, we got one. It's it's an actor. I remember when we first talked, like I thought you had this military background and stuff, but you just took it from the research you did, and Scott who lived it. And I thought both kind of roughly putting the same kind of message or genre as you would. And I remember reaching out, like, you guys got to talk. And he is, obviously he was very instrumental with the Pineapple Express, with the fall of Kabul, and
horrible.
Next one coming out about that. He is
I think that's what he's going to talk about on his podcast. He did this one-man show, and when he saw me in Detroit, he said, I'm actually writing a one-man show. I think that's why he came up. He wanted to see how I did mine. Right. And he had kind of discussed if he wanted me to direct it, but I think the distance got kind of separated, and he found someone else. But because he's in Florida,
right. Yeah, and because yours still is a one-man show, right? You didn't expand. You kept it just with yourself playing all the parts and everything. Oh, I lost your audio. You got muted. How'd you get muted? Let me see if Rob can unmute you. Let's see if I can unmute you.
How's that? My bad.
No,
I think I hit my mouse and that did it.
No problem. But so I'm glad, because I've seen his show a couple times. Actually, my wife and I flew to New York. My son flew to New York City to see it after we saw it here where I live in the Buffalo area. We went and met him there and saw it there, and just I've been able to hang out at his house and interview him and stuff, and then Pineapple Express, I was pretty involved with him about that and when that was happening, and I'm he's still going.
How many years did you serve, and where did you and what branch? I forget.
I was in the Army. I did 22.
22 years. Yeah. You retired.
Yeah, I retired in 2009. Yeah, and I was infantry the whole time, and so I was in Desert Storm, then I was in Afghanistan in 2006. And
I would imagine the Afghanistan fall was really tough for you.
It wasn't easy, and it hasn't been easy since for me and some of my soldiers and people close to me. And I was talking a lot to Scott during that time. There were people coming to me that were trying to get help, both people coworkers of mine that had people over there, interpreters of mine, and I was hitting up Scott on WhatsApp. I mean, on not WhatsApp, on what's our other one we use that everyone uses? I forget. Signal. And
Signal.
We had about 4 or 5 chats going, and I was feeding him info. He was feeding me stuff, and that was a crazy time. Luckily, my work just kind of let me go off to the side and just work on it.
Yeah, I remember that. It's funny because when 9/11 happened, I still remember 9/11 like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Because but I remember specific details. Like I remember the weather. That was the thing that I remember the most, is the weather. It was a beautiful day in New York. I mean, it was one of these, like, and everyone talks about it. Everyone who was there on 9/11. It's, in fact, when you go to the 9/11 museum, I don't know if you've been to it, but there's a wall there, and it's blue. And it was because the sky was so blue. There wasn't a cloud, and it was one of these beautiful fall days. You didn't need a sweater, but you could almost wear a sweater. It was, maybe like 72, 73 degrees. It was just perfect. And so whenever I smell that type of weather, I'm back in 9/11. And I also remember the fall of the buildings was what I remember the most, looking at them. And I remember just the chaos after that. And so for a long period, Lower Manhattan was shut down. Everyone's work was shut down. So all you would do at home, it was kind of like the beginning of COVID. You would just watch the news nonstop. You would just, like, you were glued to the TV, and you're trying to figure that out. And that went on for a long time. And then with the fall of Afghanistan, I feel like I was right back there. And I remember being really, really emotionally moved during that. And I've talked about it before, because in the course of doing this play, I've met so many veterans and guys who've fought in Afghanistan and Iraq, and I've heard their stories, and Gold Star sisters and Gold Star mothers, and you name it. And I've become really close with them, a lot of them. And then when Afghanistan happened, I was, fucked up, and I was like, whoa. I started getting even double fucked up, because I was thinking about all the veterans that I knew over the years who I've developed a relationship with, and started thinking about what they were going through. And I was having a hard time. And I thought, and I kept, it was kind of like an outer body experience. I was thinking, if I'm having a hard time, they must be having a double hard time. And then I would kind of reverse back to the issues I was having, thinking about, like, what was all that for? And then it started, the fuckery of the fall of Afghanistan started fucking with me as an actor on stage, because I started wondering, like, who's the good guy here now?
Right.
And I was having doubts, and I started thinking, like, because when I created the play, it was all about trying to give guys who weren't getting a voice, give them a voice, and families a voice. And then the fuckery by the country, you get so twisted by what the government does, that you're like, who? You start having all these weird questions inside your head, and you start wondering, like, who's the good guy? I mean, what's the fuckery about? Like, how do I?
Did you change your script? Did you change your play after that? Did you add in something referencing that, or make any changes?
No, I haven't, but I'm thinking about doing it for the Off-Broadway run. I want to. I talked to a vet who, he sent me a message not shortly after that, and he said it was about, he served in Iraq, and his son served in Syria, and I'll keep them nameless, but they both were dealing with PTSD, and they both saw his father saw my play, and then he sent me a message that his son had sent him, and he said, Dad, I walk around in jeans and a t-shirt, and no one knows what the fuck I've done. And it stuck with me really heavily. And I've talked to a lot of vets who have expressed that to me. He said, I walk around, I have these anger issues, either in the gym, and I think about what I've served, and no one has a fucking clue, and it bugs me. I've thought about writing a small piece, just having me on stage and silhouetted, just talking those words out, to give a voice to the guys who've are walking around a little bit lost right now. I've been thinking about writing a piece for that.
It's interesting you mentioned that. So, I mean, I was there 06 to 07. I went back in 2010 as a contractor for a short stint, but pretty much 06 to 07. And when I came back, I traveled, especially then. My work in IT, I travel pretty heavily, and about 75% of the year I'm on the road. And I got back, and once I had my downtime and went back to work and doing IT stuff for customers, I would be on the plane, and I would see people freaking out. I can't wait to, like, for example, the 06, not every plane had Wi-Fi and all that stuff. So I would see us touch down, and I'd see people crank on their Blackberries as fast as they could, or do whatever. Or if the plane did have Wi-Fi, it was a newer one, and it didn't work because it was still getting kind of built out. They were like complaining to the flight attendant and it's stuff. And I remember looking around and be like, this is your biggest problem. I just remember like I would just see people, or in the airport, like flipping out because they didn't have their rental car that they wanted, didn't have their class, or I would just see this stuff in my normal everyday work. And I'd be in having just come out of country months earlier, and right before my son went in the country, I was sitting there thinking, this is your biggest problem in the world is because you can't turn your BlackBerry on fast enough.
It's like that Louis C.K. skit. Did you ever see that one?
Which one is that?
Oh, I'll send it to you. But he talks about he's on a late show, and he talks about people like being pissed off because they can't get Wi-Fi, right? And he's like, you fucking useless fuck. You're in a plane 30,000 feet up in the air. You should be grabbing your chair going, what the fuck is going on? You're flying like a fucking bird, and you're bitching about not the Wi-Fi. He said, give it a second. It's going to space. Like, he's like,
I'd be like, we're in a tube going through the air. I just came out of a country where they just, they pretty much farm dirt. And, and it's like, this is your biggest year. But then I had a kind of a change. I kind of went, you know what, how lucky these people are that this is their biggest worry. I mean, that's what we fight for, right? That's what we go over. So they don't have to experience the horrors and the depravity of what people do in a combat zone, like what Ukraine's been going through the last few years or whatever it may be, right? I'm thinking, well, that's kind of what the reason why we did it. So they're lucky. They don't have to ever think about that or worry about that, because obviously they forgot about 9/11 and they forgot about those months and a year and a half after 9/11, that now their biggest concern is getting on the signal as soon as they land. So I started kind of to shift. I was like, I kind of then started looking at like, yeah, you're welcome. I was just kind of saying to myself, like, that's your biggest concern, So I just kind of went from being angry to being like, yeah, you're lucky.
Did you have a hard transition when you got out?
I don't know if it's not, I wouldn't say hard. I comparing mine to other soldiers. No, I mean, I was an older soldier when I deployed. I'd already been to war before. I was born at Fort Bragg. I was raised in it my whole life. My dad was special forces.
Did your dad served or something?
Yeah, my dad was retired special forces. So I knew, I've had a military ID card my entire life. So when I went to Afghanistan, I went with the senior team, and we were embedded with the Afghan forces and doing stuff. So, the hard part I had is what most people have, and that is missing their buddies, right? It isn't missing, the life. It isn't missing doing PT at 5 a.m. Or not, anything like that, or just dumb people in charge that shouldn't be in charge, that are just there by virtue of, they've got a couple years in a college degree. It was missing the camaraderie. That's what you miss. And that's all you leave combat and you want to go back to combat. I've had so many soldiers, I've had buddies of mine that have went back 2, 3, 4 times. And I tell them, quit chasing a ghost. You're not going to find it. What you missed was the people on your left and right. The next time you go, it's all new people. It's not going to be the same experience. Even if you go to the same theater, it's not the same experience.
I talk about that in my play. I have a character. He goes into that. He says, he talks about shooting a 50 caliber machine gun. And then he's like, what I miss the most, really, to be honest with you, I miss my buddies. That's what I miss. I don't, my wife doesn't even want me to go back, but I feel like I owe it to my men to go back. I mean, some of my buddies have done 2, 3, 4, 5 deployments. So yeah, that's a piece of the monologue, but he talks about that. Like, I miss going back, and all my characters in some way talk a little bit about the brotherhood in different ways, but brotherhood is a big deal. And that's the one common theme, the 3 themes in my play are discipline, teamwork, and brotherhood. And the reason why there was another one, marching. There was another one, but marching, brotherhood, team, and teamwork and discipline were all these themes that were all parallel through no matter what war you studied, right? Everyone hated to march. It didn't matter if it was the Revolutionary War or Vietnam or wherever. And then right. Teamwork and brotherhood. And at the end, the brotherhood was what guys were fighting for each other. They at some point they stopped fighting for the war and they fight for each other.
Yeah, I mean that's it. Whether Vietnam vets or anything, I mean you go back and watch any of those stories. You can watch guys that were in the Echo Company 506 that the Band of Brothers was about, right? All they talk about are the guys, right? It's not about anything to do with shooting anybody or even taking a town or reaching an objective, right? It was the guys and coming home. And it's funny because I talked about this a couple weeks ago on here. Is that all we talk about when we're over there is coming back. And as soon as we're back, for example, like when I was home on my mid-tour leave, or I had to come home on emergency leave, you want to be back. I just like hope my guys don't do anything while I'm gone, because I don't want something to happen to them that I'm not there, right? And so as soon as you're home for the 2 weeks of mid-tour leave, you want your mind's there the whole time. You're checking out every day.
I literally have a line that says that. It says, I want to come home, and then I come home, and all I can think about is war. And then I go back, and all I can think about is coming home. It's like I'm torn. It's like I have a mistress.
It's kind of a split personality. Yeah, for sure.
You didn't have a hard time transitioning, and you didn't have like, find the answer in the bottom of a bottle or something, or you're able to kind of recover pretty quickly.
No, I think so. I mean, I've dealt with things here and there, but I had a good foundation. I also was, I was blogging before I went, and when I was here in 2006,
that helps. Writing helps.
I was writing helps. I was a senior NCO. I used my name. I didn't hide. I became very large in the blogging world, which is how I ended up with this show. And I would write about, the right way with operational security. I would write about what was happening, and I would, change names, change times, and all that stuff. And I got a pretty large following, and including soldiers that would rotate in and ask me. They figured out, be like, "Are you Boohammer? Is that your blog? We've been following you the whole time while we were getting ready." And all this kind of, like, wow, okay, some people are reading this besides family and friends. And that helped get it. I got pushed a lot when I got back to write a book, because 3-generation military, and just what I went through. And I just got busy with work, never did. But I mean, I wrote a lot.
Write a book.
I wrote a lot when I was there, and all that's archived, but that helped, right? I didn't hold it in. I had good guys on my left and right that we would talk through things. But then I also was able to put it on keyboard and
writing is such I love writing, and I sucked at English in high school. Like, I was really bad at it. It was one of these. It was like a lot of guys were, a lot of people when they're in school, they're afraid of math. I was terrified of English. I just wasn't good. Now. Yeah, and I spoke. I think it's a lot of it because my parents were Hispanic, so I spoke 2 languages. So I was always traveling. I lived in South America sometimes because my dad was a merchant marine, and so when I was young, when I was in elementary school, especially, I was kind of always behind where everyone was at. So I just struggled with grammar, and but when I started to get into writing and started to write, and and grind it out, I found it so freeing, so therapeutic, because it's such, when you write, it crystallizes your thought, and it allows you to really sharpen your point of view and your concepts and your what you're trying to express in a very clear way, because you work through it as you're writing it, right? And you become on a side note, I mean, I'm really sad about the passing of Charlie Kirk, because what I loved about him is that he was able to express things that I couldn't express, and like sometimes when when you're having a conversation with someone and you're trying to make a point, and you're like, oh, man, I didn't make that point clear enough, or like I stumble over my words, and then you hear someone like him, like a prophet, and just throws it out, and you're like, oh, it's so perfect. It's so cohesive.
Finished college, yet he was so quick, he was so witty, and he wasn't making stuff up. That's why
it was organic. It was all organic.
He retained all that stuff. He studied, he knew it. He could recite scripture, he could recite history, facts, whatever it may be. He didn't have to look it up, right? He just went right for it. But yeah, I know what you mean. And so let me ask you then, so did you just get better at English, or did you get some coaching along the way? I mean, did you just learn?
No, I always struggled. I mean, through college, I mean, I passed it, I was able to pass. I was, but I wasn't very good. And I never thought I was going to be a writer. I mean, never. In fact, when I was putting this play together, I was trying to put it together as a multi-character play. And it wasn't until I met someone, a very prolific playwright in New York, whose name is Craig Lucas, and he said, you don't. I had so many no's, and then I knew someone who said you should take a playwriting class, and I took a playwriting class, and then he was the one who said, you don't have a play, you have a one-man show. No one is ever going to be able to communicate what you're trying to tell better than you are, and so you should start writing a play. And I've written 2 plays, a children book, and a TV series, and it's not because I'm really good at it. I think I have a an endurance for grinding out my writing, if that makes sense. Like I can, you get comfortable. There's so many parallels in art with the military. That's an interesting thing that I've found. In the military, you have to grind a lot.
Right.
You have to, grunt it out. And there's a term that I love that it's very applicable in art is you have to get comfortable with the suck.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't write, don't act, don't perform, don't sing because they're terrified of the suck. I mean, they're really afraid of sucking in the beginning, right?
Is it when you say that, and I know what it means in the military, but in the art world, is that the rejection, the ridicule? Is that the
ridicule? It's the ridicule, it's the rejection, it's the ability not to be able to be good. Like, you're writing, if you've never written before and you start writing, unless you're someone prolific, but if you've never written before, you're going to suck. It's going to suck. Like if you go back to your first blog, it sucked. And then by the 10th blog, it's getting better. And then by the 50th, it's way better. Right. And it's true for writing. It's true for acting. And when I first performed the play, it sucked. I remember I recorded and I was like, oh my God, that's horrible. It's embarrassing. I had to force myself to watch it. But if you get comfortable just sucking, the second time you do it, you get better at it and you figure things out. And the third time you get better at it. And so,
you're breaking new trail, right? You have no stick to measure against. So, I mean, you're not the one-man play, but just the content, right? No one else had done it. So you're trying to.
You're trying to do it. So when you're writing, you just start you start getting comfortable. You actually yourself get comfortable of looking at your writing and thinking if it's bad. Like when I write my newsletters, I spend a lot of time writing them, almost too much time, but I try to find stories. I try to find, is this going to be interesting? And I'll begin, and that newsletter won't go out for 2 weeks out, and then before I even publish it, I'll kind of rescan it again. Does this make sense? Is the grammar, I can move the comma here. And over practice, over repetition is the mother of skill. You become more skillful in your writing. And that's true for anything, right? But a lot of people, my postman I talk to all the time, he was learning how to play guitar. He wanted to learn. Well, now he is. And he was, he was like, I need to practice more and I'm not very good. And I told him the same story. I said, what you need to do is like, learn one song and invite someone into your living room and play your one song badly for that one person. You're going to suck. You're going to be embarrassed. You're going to be nervous. Your body's going to think you're at war. You're going to be sweating bullets, but you're going to learn from that experience. You're going to get comfortable in that pressure experience. That's another one, about the military and the art. There's so many parallels, but like pressure, I'm sure when you first felt pressure when you were serving, either in combat or overseas, that first one it's quite daunting, right? That first experience you feel, but the second one, you're like, okay, I understand a little bit, and I know I'm scared, but I know how to kind of compartmentalize all this stuff and focus. But the first time you're just like, your brain is on fire in a way, your cortex.
A lot of anxiety. It's like someone going to a new school, right? It's just, you have all these things. You don't know what to expect, how you're going to be treated. Are you going to do something dumb? And then when you realize that's pretty straightforward. Okay. Yeah. Focus on the focus on the right things, not everything, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So you learn and you get better at it, and you, and you just get better at it. I mean, that's plain and simple. But a lot of people, even from podcasting, I'm sure your first podcast sucked,
Yeah.
Now you're fluid. Now you know what to do. You're comfortable. You're fluid. And I think a lot of people, they kill their dreams before they give it a chance because they're so uncomfortable of sucking. I mean, how many people you hear say, I should do a podcast, or I should write, or I should do this? As an actor, I hear it all the time.
Well, they do 2 episodes and they're just heart's not in it, and they just,
well, it's hard. It's hard work. And that's, people don't think podcasting is hard. It's hard. Yeah. The editing and the producing, and then, and then you get better asking questions, right? You get better talking to people, which is another skill that a lot of people don't have.
Right.
You learn how to,
I've been doing a show since 2007. It went through many variations. We've been doing video on it for probably, 6 or 7 years because people wanted to watch us talk. But I mean, the unique thing about our show, from before, is we do it live, right? You see what you see is what you get, right? We do some pre-recorded, But we just don't have the cycles to go home and do a chopping and edit. Like, a lot of podcasts, it's all edited, it's this and that. You see what you get. If we have technical flubs, if we lose audio, we do this. We just keep rolling with it, right? And that's
why do you choose? I'm just curious. Why do you choose to do it live?
That's kind of always been our shtick, and it just we and the funny thing is we get more people that watch it after the fact. And I say watch because more people watch than listen. We push out to a ton of outlets, but only a few video ones. And most people will do it after, even though we do it live on a Thursday night. But still, we don't go back and edit it. So whatever it is what it is. And I think it comes, you tell me, but it's more like us just sitting around shooting the shit. I mean, we're just talking.
Yeah. No, I mean, live is good, Yeah.
But we drop connections. I'll drop and my video will go out and Rob will come back on and he'll run it till I get in whatever happened and I get back. And yeah, just sometimes it just doesn't go right, but that's just the way it is. We just keep it Bush League like that.
I like it. I like Bush League. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done them. Everyone does them so differently, live. I think this might be the second. I can't remember what was the other live. I was on an actor podcast that he was live. But most of the time I do the podcasts are pre-recorded and They cut them up and edit them up but yeah, I mean it doesn't matter. I mean, at the end of the day, it's conversation.
Right. So we do a special show on Tuesday nights called Lima Charlie for Loud and Clear. And that one we pre-record a lot of those. And it's a whole different it's on this channel, but it's meant just to talk to guys and gals that have deployed sometime, doesn't matter what war. And it's just why'd you join? What did you join? How did that work? And then a few stories from downrange, right? We're trying to capture those stories that no longer come home in letters, right? Like you talk, like there's no one writing letters home anymore. No. So we're trying to archive and capture these stories of just funny things that happen downrange or sad things or things that left an impact. So we do that on Tuesday nights and we try to pre-record those so we can rack them and stack them and make sure we try to get one every week. But it's geared just to that. We're just talking about why you went in the military, what you came in, how that went, and then tell us some things that happened during your downrange deployment. And we've had Air Force weathermen, we've had Special Forces people, we've had sailor, we've had everything in between, and they all had different experiences. A lot of people I know, some of my old former soldiers, and things I didn't know that guys that I served with, experiences they had, I found out while interviewing them, even though we were together the whole year. I didn't even.
Yeah. So no, I mean, it's kind of like me. I'm writing a book now based on the play because I don't know how much longer the play will go. I got to find it, if I'm going to publish it, let someone else do it or what. But I mean, I think Douglas doing the play is, at least this version of it it's on its last legs, I believe. It's been 11 years since I've been doing the play.
How often do you how many performances a year do you get in on average?
Man, every year I think it's the last time. I end up doing it like 7 times that year. It's kind of crazy. And every year I think, I don't know if a booking will come in. I get a crazy big booking like the Kennedy Center or now the Off-Broadway production.
So people come to you. You're not out there shopping it around trying to pimp it out.
I mean, I market it. I mean, by marketing, I talk about it on Facebook and on X. But in the beginning, I would constantly push it. But now I don't. Now they've I got on a call yesterday. They're going to book me for 2026. I mean, I have 2 bookings already for 2026, and they want to bring me this lady. Her son is a cop, and her son she became friends with this other lady who served, and her husband took his life. He was an Army vet, and her crazy story. But her son was the cop that found her friend's husband. So they want to bring me up to Washington, the state of Washington, to perform the play. But now the play has been, it's been going around for so long that, if you type in the American Soldier, even if it's just a general term, my play is going to come up. For a long time when Stephen Lang was performing, he had a play called Beyond Glory. I don't know if you know who Stephen Lang is. He's an actor, and he was in, what's that movie? When you look him up, you know who he is, but
Rob will tell me he's
yeah. He had a play called Beyond Glory. It's a one-man show. He gave me a big inspiration when I saw his play on Broadway. And it's based off of Medal of Honor recipients. all of them. And he does like 8 characters, and it's great. It was great. And he stopped performing it, I think, in 2021 or 2022. And people who were booking him started booking me to come to fill in, because he just quit. He made so much money in the movie when they're all blue. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, all blue helps. We're not talking about the Blue Man Group.
Yeah. No, not the Blue Man Group. It's a aliens, or not aliens, but they're in the Amazons or whatever.
Avatar.
Yeah, he's the general.
Oh, okay.
He's the general, and yeah. So I think he made so much money that he was like, okay, this is a lot of work. This one-man show is a lot of work, and so he kind of just stopped it. So people started calling me and say, hey, we had Stephen Lang. Like, I had a theater book me in Ohio, and they said, we were trying to get Stephen Lang in here, but he doesn't do the play anymore. Are you available this date? And so I started, performing the play. Right. So, but yeah, no. So it gets out there, and what was I trying to say? Sorry, I got my family on VIPs, and I told them not to ping. My daughter just pinged anyway. That's
this is what live is about, man. It's just,
I know, my daughter.
I heard it go ding, and I saw you look. I'm like, someone's trying to.
I told them, please don't ping, because they're all on VIP, because I ignore them all the time. So my wife made everybody in the family VIP, so now they always get in. Yeah. But
let me ask you real quick, right? Yeah. So logistically, it's got to be. Is it a pretty simple show to logistics to handle? Is it you in costumes and a few props and that?
Yeah, it's no costumes. There is. I wear this kind of like a military. You can go to the AmericanSoldierSoloShow.com, and there's a video on the homepage playing. I use the same shirt, and I either take it off or I do something with the shirt to kind of change characters. But the makeup of the show is basically me, a World War II Army trunk, and an American flag that hangs behind me, 6x9, and a table, and that's it. The table I always borrow from the space that I'm performing in, and I travel with my Army trunk and my flag, which is kind of cool, because in the old days, in the acting old days, actors, when they were trying to find work, so the play has a lot of history. Obviously, it has the military history, but it also has a lot of theater history, which is really cool, because in the old days, actors in the vaudevillian days, they would travel with trunks, and they would pull props out, and they would perform for theaters for people all over the country, and they were called gypsies, and that's how they traveled. They would live out of these trunks, right? And so I'm kind of doing an homage. I didn't plan it that way. It's weird. It just happened that way. But I'm doing an homage to theater, traveling around the country, pulling props out of a World War II Army trunk to try to give, entertain people and give people a voice and help them heal.
Right. Yeah, that's do you get a lot of feedback after the show? Do you get a lot of like people like come up and talk to you?
It's crazy. It's crazy.
That's got to be make you want to, okay, I'm sticking with this. I'm not going to stop.
Yeah, no, I every time I do a play, after the play, I'm jacked up. I'm just, I get, I've got a thing right here. I'm like 40, what's it called when they give you a coin?
Coin. Oh, look at Rob throwing up some.
Oh yeah. What's it called when they give you challenge coin? Yeah. I've got like 40 or 50 of them from traveling around. Guys have given me their patches from when they've served.
Yeah.
I don't know, behind me, I don't know if you can see, but I've got letters back there filled. You see that little plaque, right?
Yeah, right above your head.
Yeah, right there. You can't see it because I'm trying to reorganize that. It's filled with letters that people have written me. And so, so it's been really fulfilling, and I've made some amazing friendships, really cool friendships over the years. And it's been amazing because, in art, in acting, you don't, no pun intended, you're kind of like, a gun for hire in a way, right? And you do a job and it's over with, and you're not really connected. If you are connected to the material, it's special. But I get to travel around the country, do the craft that I love really a lot, which is my acting, and give back to people and help people find a voice and heal and make people feel like they've been listened to. And that's the one thing a lot of vets have always said, we're really grateful that you cared enough to write a story so that people hear us and understand our story. Because a lot of guys have said, that monologue, the way you do it, that was what I was experiencing. Or, what you experienced there. I mean, I went through that in Afghanistan, or that's exactly how I came back from Vietnam. People were throwing stuff at me. And so that's me playing a one-armed soldier. I talk about phantom limb pains, and a guy goes, that's true, man. I would get these fucking phantom limb pains. And for people who are listening, a phantom limb pain is when you lose a limb, you still feel like the limb is still there, leg or arm. And this character talks about, phantom limb pains. And but yeah, people, they're enthralled to it, and it's cool. You get to do your craft, and you get to act, and you get to give back and use your what you love to give back to humanity in a way, to have a mission, an artistic mission that actually is helping people. People
Right.
want to hear it. They want to see it. They want to talk about it, So, yeah, it's giving back.
You're not bored. You're not sitting around. You have quite a resume of TV and movie and things like that. I mean, you've done a lot of shows. You've been a busy cat. So it's not like you're just doing this because there's nothing else going on. Right?
No. A lot of times it gets in the way. This play gets in the way, and it's hard. Sometimes, like last year was a really busy year for me. Doing the play was probably one of the busiest. Maybe the year before. I mean, I did it like 7 or 8 times. I actually turned down performances because I was, every time you go away, I'm away from my family. I'm away from my dog. It's a time commitment. It's a lot of work, and then it's not a massive money earner, and so you can't do anything. So once you book out, like once I'm performing, in New York or Minnesota, for example. Let's say Minnesota, the 14th. I'm doing one show there, but I'll be gone 3 days. I can't do anything else. So if you do weekend performances 7-8 times a week, it's a lot. I mean, a year, it's a huge time commitment because, and a lot of times, like this year I went to Fall Rivers for the second time, Fall River, Massachusetts. I got to fly to Boston, get in a rent-a-car, drive to Fall Rivers, which is cool. But it was really cool when I was, I didn't have kids or my kids were small, but, now my son is 15, 16. He's in high school. He's playing varsity football. I don't want to miss that. And my daughter's dancing. And so it just becomes more of a time commitment that becomes more challenging.
Do you do more than one show? Like you go for a weekend, for example, like try to knock out like a couple evenings in a matinee, or do you just do one show and that's it?
Usually it's done like a Thursday night, Friday night, sometimes Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday matinee. It's usually some combination of that. We'll try to do. That shot was at the Kennedy Center. It was a really cool shot. The photographer got.
Yeah.
That's
your good side.
What's that? Yeah, I got my good side. Yeah, he got my good side. That's the flag. It's a 6x9 flag, and it hangs right behind me. And yeah, that's me, I believe, playing a character, a father who loses his son.
Are you ever looking to put this on? When during COVID, right? All the musicals got turned into films and this and that.
Yeah.
And I know you did Landing Home, which was kind of based on this. If I'm have you ever thought about putting this, like, in case you ever do decide to hang it up and not do it because of time and stuff?
Yeah, I want to make it into a movie. I want to make it into film. But the main reason why I want to make it into a film is because I want to do it. I want kids to see it. I want kids to understand. I mean, so the last year I've done a couple performances where they've brought in like 800 kids from high schools, local high schools. And the reaction from them has been really amazing. Yeah, that's basically the setup. It's just a flag, army, and a trunk. And the setup for the reaction from these kids is just overwhelming.
Were they primarily like from a military area, or you think they're all purely civilian kids, or were they like military?
A mixture. It's just a mixture. They just bring in a bunch of high schools. So a lot of times there'll be these producers will have outside funding to, like I did in Connecticut. They brought in 1,500 kids. They did I did 2 shows for them. And they brought in, I did a 9 a.m. show, which was tough. That was not that, I mean, I wake up early in the morning, but acting at 9 o'clock in the morning, this kind of material, I was like coffee baby. And then I did at 11 o'clock, and they brought in like 700 in the morning and 800 in the 11 o'clock. And but I've done something like in Fall Rivers. I did it for a bunch of high school kids. I did a matinee for them, and they're just, I mean, they get the material. First of all, they laugh at the things you think they're going to laugh at. They laugh when I smoke, I smoke a joint on the stage, and like they giggle for that. But they get the message. They get the important stuff, and they're in it. And the talkbacks afterwards are fascinating to me, because to me it's like,
oh, they've got to be the questions they ask. Or
they're like, well, a lot of them, they don't know, like, did we fight in World War II? I didn't know we fought in World War II, or I didn't know we fought in, man, Vietnam. That sounds horrible. Or, wow, I want to study World War I, or I want to study World War II, and you could see their brain is just like, they're in it. They want to study American history. And I actually had a girl, I remember, she said, I really want to study history now, I mean, so they get to see history in a way that I think is probably, I think it's why half of the kids are so fucking bored in school, man. I mean, they start studying stuff in a book, you can't, it's just not the same by seeing it alive,
Right.
And so they get really woken up by it. So it's really important for them. And, they walk away, I need to talk to my uncle, or I need to talk to my aunt, or, now that makes a lot of sense. I didn't know. Now I understand why my grandfather was the way he was, or, and then they're awakened to stories that they would have normally would have never been exposed to. And so, and I've had universities who've asked, I just had a university ask me, can we use your play for material? And I always say no, because I'm still performing it. But, I think a film for kids would be awesome.
Yeah. And a university would be, even, it would be awesome. I mean, they need their minds opened up too, especially with all that they get filled with. But, yeah, so still going on. Landing Home, that was a series, right? Landing Home.
It was serious. Hold on, give me 1 second. My dog is scratching the door and he won't stop.
All right, now I gotta know what kind of dog you got.
Yeah, he's a beach dog. You gonna come in? You gonna be good? You gonna be good? Huh? All right. You wanna say hi? Come here.
Oh, look at him. Oh yeah. I know you said you missed your dog first, I think, before you said anyone else when you're on.
I know. You know how it is, man, with the dog. You have a dog?
Yes, I do.
What do you got?
He's an old English bulldog.
Yeah.
And
we went for a run today, so he's old. When we go, we run, and he gets attached after we run.
Yeah.
Anyway, So what do you think about during 9/11, when 9/11 happens, like today?
It's funny you asked me that. So I mean, it's 24 years. I always watch every year. That they always have, the documentaries they go back and reshow, and I've watched them a lot. And you would think after 24 years and everything else seen and been through and done, especially this crazy week, it'd be like, okay, it's 9/11. I get it. But I was driving this morning, and I just put on Fox on Sirius, because I was trying to just stay up on what was going on with everything going on out in Utah, and with Charlie Kirk, and they were just replaying, like they do every year, their footage from 9/11, right? So the so and so's down at the before the towers dropped, and they're just doing all that footage. They're just replaying it right in the scene, and I can picture it because I've seen it so many times. I'll be honest, I admit it right here first. I was driving, I had tears in I was crying, and and I thought to myself, why am I'm like, I've been dealing with this for 24 years, and it was like, but just hearing, the unknown, they're like, we think the tower just fell, and then here comes the dust cloud, and just hearing all that, and you hear people screaming and all that stuff. And it's like, I was just driving, and I had tears, and I was choking up, and I was like, wow, it is still hitting me after all this time and everything I've seen and done and been through. It still is that resonant. But that's the reason why I still listen to it and try to watch it, because I don't want to ever lose that feeling.
Oh, I don't think you will. I mean, I know I won't. I think of 9/11 on days that's not even 9/11, and I know it's crazy. And I didn't serve and I didn't fight. I think a lot of it is because of the play, because the play was a big inspiration for it. And then every year I'm doing, 7 performances of the play, which comes from 9/11 inspiration. So I'm always thinking about it. And a lot of times I talk about it throughout the year because people ask, why did you write the play? But I think about it all the time.
We're there when the attack.
I was coming out of the North Towers when I was when the first plane hit. I was I don't know, maybe 10 blocks, 15 blocks. So I lived in Hoboken, New Jersey. So I was all the subways they all emptied out on the bottom of the World Trade Towers. And Hoboken, New Jersey is right across the river. It's like, from Hoboken to Times Square, you can get there faster than anybody from Brooklyn or the Bronx or anybody. And so I came out of the North Tower, and I walked to work. I was a personal trainer, making my day as my day job, support myself as an actor. And I think 10 minutes after I left the North Tower, the first plane hit. And when the first plane, I used to train at a gym off of Whitehall Street. And I was only, I don't know, maybe a quarter mile away. And so, and for any, if you've never, for people who never saw the World Trade Towers, they were massive and they were huge. And the New York skyline has never been the same. They were so big that when I would go auditioning, knocking on doors, leaving my headshot and resume to kind of, get an agent or get some work, when I moved from Texas to New York, I was always lost. I couldn't figure out. I'll never forget this older lady down in the Village. She saw me with a map and she goes, "Honey, where are you trying to go?" And I said, I can't remember. I told her I was trying to go somewhere north. And she said, "Well, look, let me help you out. First of all, don't walk around with your map open.
Yeah.
You're a target. 2, you see those 2 big buildings over there? Okay, those are the Twin Towers. That's south. So if you know where south is, you know where north is. And if you know where north is, you know where west and east is." And that's how I would navigate myself. And so they were massive. So being only a quarter mile away, it was like you're right there, and you could be, for people to understand, you could be up in Spanish Harlem, which is like 140th Street, which is at the end of Manhattan on the opposite direction. And you can still see the Twin Towers. You can still see them. You could see them from parts of Connecticut. So they were massive.
Yeah.
And so when they fell, I mean, especially being a quarter mile away, I mean, it was right there. I mean, you're right there. I mean, and the thing that I always remember, and when people watch the footage of 9/11 and stuff, is when they fall and everything goes gray. I remember that like it was, I mean, so clearly, because the building that we trained in Lower Manhattan was a big glass building, and we were there. And I remember watching them fall outside, and I was so close that I could run inside the building, close the doors, and I started putting
Oh, hold on, you muted yourself.
I started putting towels on the bottom, and you're just watching the glass doors go shoo, gray, like someone brought down a curtain, and you couldn't see anything, and you were just stuck there, and debris or fog, smoke, whatever, dust was coming through the cracks, and you can hear. You start going back. You could hear. It sounded like chimes, but pieces of metal falling everywhere, and you could hear it just chiming. And then the car alarms. To this day, you could hear all the car alarms going off. All these car alarms were going off, and all these chimes. You could hear just. It's hard to explain. And so yeah, I remember that like it was yesterday. And then I remember an FDY fireman come in telling us, "Get the fuck out of here." And he was like, I remember looking at his face, like he was a big dude. And he had this look like, "Do as I say, do not ask another question, get the fuck out of this building." And I was like, he means business. And we left, and we saw the first tower and we saw the second tower, and then he came down and we left. And I remember an African-American woman running into our building with one shoe on and one shoe off, blood coming down her face. And And then I remember being evacuated on the FDR highway, which is on the east side of Manhattan. And everyone, for the most part, silent. Some people were crying, some people were shivering. And I remember thinking, we had towels around our faces because I used to work construction in high school. So I remember thinking about asbestos. I don't know, the things you think about, under pressure. Right. But I remember thinking, oh, fuck, there's probably asbestos in there. So we should put towels around our faces because I didn't want to breathe them in. Because I remember when I worked construction, they always talk about asbestos, and they always say, don't breathe in asbestos, don't touch the asbestos, So my mind immediately went to asbestos when the towers came down. And so I started a bunch of towels.
Look how many people have died of cancer that were down there working it, that were there. Yeah.
Yeah. No, tons of people would go down there. I went down there a couple times, but then the asbestos kind of scared me because, when you work construction, that's all they talk about is asbestos, and it's not that I work a lot of construction, but I worked enough where they hammer that into you. We're like, don't breathe it, don't touch it, stay away from it, take care of it. And I remember going on at the FDR thinking this is what a refugee must feel like, being kicked out of your home. And
you walk across the FDR?
Yeah, you walk on the FDR and then you got on ferries and you went to New Jersey. And then I did a full circle. I came in from Hoboken and I went back to Hoboken.
Just a long trip back, yeah.
Yeah, just did a big circle. Everybody was they were evacuating from 34th Street down. They basically there was no transportation. And if you lived in a house 34th below the 34th Street, you weren't allowed to go home. They basically blocked that off. And anybody who else was trapped there, you said you had to go to Jersey. They basically evacuated Lower Manhattan. If you don't really understand, it's kind of insane what they did, but they basically
been there. Yeah,
they evacuated Lower Manhattan, and you went to and they sent everybody. There was a shortage of ferries, so they were bringing ferries in from Connecticut because they needed so many fucking ferries to get people over from Manhattan into New Jersey. Everyone was either going to Jersey City, which was a little bit further north, or Hoboken, which is a little bit further south, and they were just ferrying people into New Jersey until they figured out what to do. So I remember that. I remember the dreaded views of people, jumping from the building, that's probably the hardest part of 9/11 Museum when I go to it. When you go, they have the videos playing of people falling, jumping. I remember that. And
I've heard I've been there. It's the sound of that. The impact that's what seemed to have stuck the most with people is that were close enough to just say the impacts were just something they'll never forget, that sound.
Yeah, there's a documentary. I'm sure you've seen it, but it's a very famous documentary. It's of the two French students.
Oh, filming.
They were there just doing a documentary on firemen, and they happened to be there on 9/11, right. And they caught the whole thing, and it's quite powerful. And when I watched that I haven't watched that documentary in a while. I watched it with my son, but man, I go right back there, man. I go right back to that day, that moment.
Kind of you asked me how I did and when I retired and got out and that. How have you done? You were right in the middle of that. You were at ground zero, literally. And how have you done? Obviously it still impacts and like say, you haven't forgotten smells, sights, and sounds, but did you have to go through a process to kind of deal with it, or did you do it through?
No, I didn't really. I didn't. I think a lot of it is because sometimes I wonder, like I haven't let it. The play has become 9/11 for me in a way. Like I relive it all the time, and that's why I think the fall of Afghanistan fucked with me so much, because I started thinking. I wrote the play to remind people of what men and women were doing in the service. And then after the fall of Afghanistan, I was so confused. I didn't know if I was doing the right thing anymore, and so I think my therapy was creating the play. I became obsessed with creating the play, reading about veterans and soldiers and military families from every war. And I became just obsessed by it, and I never
trying to tell the story and do them right. And
trying to tell a story. And so in many ways I kept the story still going in my head. And then I've been performing for 10 years and that's still going, because I still talk to guys who serve and I I still talk to military families and Gold Star families and Blue Star families, and I think probably when I put the play down, it's probably when it's going to hit me the hardest. Maybe that's when I finally let it go, But I try not to. I don't think I experience, because look, you guys are the ones who've experienced 9/11. All the thousands of men who served, who signed up for 9/11, the 7,000 who died in the 20-year wars we were over there, the countless of injuries and soldiers who remain and fatherless children. They're the ones who are really, are going through hardships and are dealing how to, put their lives together. I'm just an actor, and I was there, but I didn't suffer anything. Comparatively nothing, and I would never ever try to say that I'm struggling with something or anything like that, because I'm not, because I didn't lose faith. I didn't, I know people who lost people in the Twin Towers, right? And so those people are people who I would say, you don't, at least I don't allow myself to think I'm a victim of 9/11. I was part of 9/11, but I'm not a victim of it.
Left an imprint on you, as it should have, right? Because you have a conscience. Sure. And that kind of thing. I mean, it definitely did. Trust me, I know a lot of guys and gals that deployed that never couldn't find New York on a map. I mean, they just deployed and did their job, right? There's
a phrase that we had. So when you leave, and we had this in New York, and we have it here. When you leave our front door, we have a frame, a picture of the Twin Towers. And the reason why we have that is, especially with the events that happened yesterday with Charlie Kirk. And this morning, my family, we got in front of the picture and we gave each other a hug. I told everyone, just remember, tomorrow's not promised.
Yeah.
And I know many stories of people who should not have been in Twin Towers and who were supposed to be in the Twin Towers and were not. And I'm sure you can tell many stories the same way in the military, where guys who, just by luck, they turn their head, or they walk left instead of walking right, and they're here and they're not maimed or whatever, and I carry that picture, and that, I think that's the biggest mark that 9/11 has left me, is that tomorrow's not promised, and that you have to live for today, and just to remember that when you wake up tomorrow, it's a gift, and just know that it's you got 24 hours before the next gift comes.
Yeah, I mean, that was a thing from 9/11. The people just got on planes and thought they were just traveling and working and that kind of stuff. Like I said, I was traveling a lot back then. I mean, I have an incident in my past where I should have been on a flight that went down. I came home a day early to go to my son's a music event, and I wasn't on that plane, because I was on that plane every week. Actually out of New Jersey, coming out to Buffalo. And there's been, like, many things, like you say, you if you would have done this and not that, you would have been in the middle of a car accident, or you would have been whatever it may be. And, look at, had President Trump not turned, as he did, he'd have been gone. Had Charlie Kirk maybe had turned, maybe he would have just got skinned, but it didn't happen. Right. I mean,
apparently, from what I hear, he was wearing a bulletproof vest, and they believe that the bulletproof vest is the bullet ricocheted from the vest into his neck.
That would make sense, because I've watched the video a few times, and you see his shirt flutter. His shirt jumps, and it's not him jumping. The shirt moves itself. And I chalked it up originally to the shock wave of the round, which it could be. But if people that go back, and not that I'm encouraging you to go watch it again, but
no, I haven't watched it.
His shirt moves on its own before it like a millisecond before it hits him. So that could possibly be that would make sense. But yeah, so I mean, you're right. Tomorrow's never promised. You could get in tomorrow, going to work, and just a car accident, right? Nothing is that's why you should hold your family, not have regrets, not say cross words, because nobody wants to be at a funeral and saying I shoulda, coulda, woulda. Yeah,
I think that's the hardest thing. I have to be honest. I'm sure, like many Americans, today was a hard day for me. yesterday was a hard day, but today was hard. And I think it was the combination of the assassination of Charlie Kirk and 9/11. And, I've experienced 9/11 anniversaries in many different forms. I used to go down there and read the names and in the beginning, like in 2003 and 2004. And, but I just feel like as a student of history that I just worry that sometimes, where are we going as a country, and my son is playing a varsity game tomorrow, and he's like, we get allergy shots, and he's like, Dad, I don't want to get allergy shots because I want to make sure my arms are not sore. He's a sophomore and he's playing varsity football, so he's really into it, and I'm going through this level of darkness right now. And I'm trying to keep this innocence. He's just playing a varsity football game, and I just want him to focus on that. And he's in that world, which he should be. He's only 16, and my daughter is 12, and she's worried about a dance thing. And you're carrying this darkness inside you, and you're remembering 9/11, and you're thinking about the assassination, and you're thinking about someone who was so eloquent, who spoke so much truth, who really only had a difference of opinion from people, and just debated and was so eloquent in how he talked. And he was able to touch so many young people and communicate with them. He was such a prophet in how he talked, he really was a prophet. And he's snatched away from us like that. And I think that's a lot of times, and it's so true about life. You don't know what something great is until it's gone,
Right.
When it's in front of you and you have it next to you, you're like, okay, but then it's gone. And then you're like, oh.
It's not necessarily taken for granted, but it's just, you get used to it. You get complacent, and it could be a relationship. It could be somebody, it could be a thing. And then when you don't have it or it's gone and you're never going to see it or get it or whatever, then you're just like, wow, I should have, enjoyed. We have that. I'm sure you've had it happen where you lose someone unexpectedly, car crash, heart attack, whatever. Right. And you go, why didn't I call them that one more time? Right. Why did we were going to link up and go have a beer. We were going to go have lunch, and, I was too busy. Yeah. And, that survivor's guilt or that, whatever, it racks you. Right. But, the reality is you have life, they have life. That's just the way it worked out. But yeah, it's definitely something to hit you. And I think of, even before Charlie Kirk, right, is Ernya Zarutska, this girl, Ukrainian girl on this train, just to watch her. I mean, this was a week of just, not even the anniversary week. This is a week of just watching horrible murders happen live in color.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
Minnesota. I mean, the kids praying in Catholic church.
Right. Right. But the one they released the video of her, being stabbed by this guy. You didn't know who she was, and you watch her, you just wither and die right there, and no one helped.
And that's the thing. No one did a single thing, man.
Right. I think that's worse than a mentally disturbed, definitely sick person that should have not have been on the streets, murdering someone, doing another crime. I think the train full of people that walked away from her or looked at her and turned the other way, to me, is a more horrific thing.
No one tried. I mean, like, no one took off their shirt. No one tried to wrap her, like, oh my God, stop the bleeding. Nothing. They just like, well, good luck. Might stop. Yeah. It's horrible, man. It's horrible. That's what I talk about, the darkness. I'm just like, you're just like, I don't know, man. You just, you read. I know.
But then you see the good in people. You see a young person that that you've opened their eyes up, or that, is just like, wow, you're beyond your years, right? You got your stuff together, even like what Charlie Kirk was in his younger years, right? That kind of stuff. And you go, there's still hope for this place, right? Even though you see all this other bad stuff happen, you see senseless murders happen, and you go,
Yeah, I hope so, man. I hope you're right. I hope there's, yeah, I've not been in a good place. I probably shouldn't be sharing this on a podcast, but I've just been really, really perplexed about, like for example, you see, all these, and I have nothing against Muslims, but you see all these, what's going on in New York with this mayor candidate, and
And you're like, fuck, man, just 24 years ago,
Yeah.
we had Bush on a rubble with a megaphone talking about, I promise you, we hear you and they'll hear you, and I remember that. And now we got a guy who is an absolute, basically Marxist communist Muslim, and they're trying to pass, and you've got people like Muslims literally trying to push Sharia law in Manhattan. That's 24 years ago. And you're just like,
I mean, it's one thing to do in Dearborn, Michigan or somewhere like that. That's far away, but in Manhattan. Yeah.
Yeah. In Manhattan, man. And you're like, fuck. I mean, I know our memories are short as Americans, but are they that short? I mean, that was just 24 years ago. We're not talking about World War II, and so it's very perplexing, how this has happened and how, I don't know. Sorry, I'm in a dark place, man. But
I'm with you. I mean, just to give it some perspective, right? 24-year difference. That's like 1995 or 1996. That you're thinking back to the fall of Vietnam, like the withdrawal. That's the time difference. So for people like a little bit younger, 1996, think where you were. 24 years prior was the fall of Vietnam. That's not a big, I guess maybe when you get up at our age, right? 24 years is not a long time. I mean, that's
cool. I mean, to me, I remember 9/11. I mean, I know it was 24 years ago, but I remember like it was 4 years ago.
Right.
And that's the way I think of it. I mean, I think of it. We can do a 5-hour podcast talking about everything I remember about 9/11, from the smell of the day, the weather, to the when the first plane hit, when the first plane hit, no one knew what it was. And people thought it was an accident. People thought it was a Cessna. People thought it was a hot air balloon. When the second plane hit, that was when everyone woke up. Like, oh no, we're under attack. To the first tower falling, the second tower falling, the destruction, the dust, the evacuation, and then the aftermath afterwards. I mean,
then you're hearing about the Pentagon, and you hear about another planes are down, and then there's rumors of planes everywhere, and they're going to shoot planes. It's like, I mean, I remember, it was like the whole world was coming apart.
Oh, it was like, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, you were glued to the TV.
Yeah.
I mean, you were just literally like on a junkie fix on the news. That's really where all this breaking news started from 9/11, because when 9/11 happened, they started going breaking news, and they always had something important to say, and it became a marketing ploy for them. Now they can do breaking news. And I think during 9/11 is when they passed some piece of law or legislation where, because at that time we were still worried about terrorism, and they gave all the news channels carte blanche where they were allowed to break into any program, right? So they basically said, if you have breaking news, it doesn't matter what's going on, we'll cut to the news, because they thought, okay, well, we should let people know if there's another terror attack, right?
Right.
And they never gave up that Trump part.
I know that. Wow.
Yeah, it started, and I learned that I was working on a soap opera, and the director told me that, and he says, "Oh man, every time whenever the news wants to cut in, they can cut in on anything," and they're allowed to breaking news. But that started during 9/11. I'm almost positive, because I remember you telling me.
It's weird. 9/11, kind of like COVID hit, kind of like, there's these events, these iconic milestones in our history that you're like, you don't remember what it was like before then, right? You're just like, what was life like right after 9/11? Let's say right in the mid 2000s. You're like, what was before 9/11? Like, what was life like? You didn't even remember, right? Because we just knew Patriot Act, and we had this, and we had soldiers in war. We had, all. And then you think about COVID. I mean, the way it's been the last few years, people were like, was that pre-COVID or post-COVID? Like, how long ago did we do that? It's, it was like, no one can remember what life was like before we all went.
Well, I mean, the thing I do is I try to tell my kids, but I mean, that's another thing there's not a time when I fly, I think of 9/11. I mean, there is, when I take off my belt or my shoes or whatever, I got to go through my hands up on that machine that goes around you. There's not a single time that I don't think about 9/11. I take off my belt, I'm like, 9/11. I think about 9/11. I was like, I don't know who won or who lost, and then you see what's happening in New York, you're like, fuck. How did we let that happen?
We lose. It's like, how is this happening?
Yeah. How did we let people who hate us come in here? Like, when did that happen? Did I miss that one chapter? You know, like we let all those people to come over here who hate us. Why did we do that? You know, and that again, that goes, and then you Afghanistan. So that's what that fuckery that I talk about, right? You know, and so you get, so because when you're performing, you know, when I first wrote The American Soldier, I was really trying to say something, you know, like, hey man, we're at war and we should honor these guys. And, you know, and it's important that we remember, and which is true. And, you know, America is the good person. And then the fuckery of the fall of Afghanistan, you're really perplexed. You know, you're confused. You know, you're like, I don't know, man. That's something. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to put the word, but you know what I'm saying? You're confused now. You're like, well, the letters matter and the stories matter, but does the play matter?
Vets, not just. I mean, it opened up a lot of wounds for Vietnam vets. Let me tell you, right afterwards, and that was one of my initial concerns I talked about here on the show, was that so many of them that were able to bury that from years prior.
Yeah.
In the fall of Saigon, and how you know, they went over there, fought for a year, lost friends, buddies, all that stuff, and then just kind of nothing happened with it, and we lost it all. I mean, it opened up a lot of them, got back into therapy and had issues because it was like, holy, it's happening all over again. Like, we did not learn our lesson. I mean, So even it wasn't just Afghan vets or GWAT vets, it was Vietnam vets that got a lot of anxiety over the fall of.
Yeah.
We weren't climbing onto helicopters; they were falling off of freaking C5s.
And that's, you know, that's the frustrating thing about the fall of Afghanistan. Like, I was on a podcast with Andy Stumpf, and why is it that we can't learn a lesson, you know, as like military strategic, like strategy wise? Why is it that we can't apply lessons that oh shit, sorry.
No, you're good.
Can you still hear me?
We can still hear you, so we must have a different mic picking you up.
Okay, good. So don't worry. Maybe I didn't set up this mic. Why is it that we can't learn the strategies from like the fall of Saigon and apply that to Afghanistan, or even when we invaded Afghanistan? You know, I remember reading about, you know, I forget the name of them, but you know, in Vietnam, they embedded all American GIs. They trapped a lot of the South Vietnamese into these little, they were called, starts with an H, Hummets. They basically put them in, they grabbed all these South, because they couldn't figure out what was going on between the South Vietnamese and the North Vietnamese. So they had this idea, we're going to put them all like basically in a village, but we're going to take them away from their village, put them in our created village.
Like an internment camp.
Like an internment camp. We're going to give them rights. We're going to say, you're going to be safe here. We're going to take care of you. They were called, Rob's on, Google it, what they did in Vietnam. It starts with an H. I forget it. But we basically went and grabbed South Vietnamese from their farm and stuck them in there, right? And they hated us for it, right? I mean, it'd be like someone grabbing you and your family. Hey, trust us. You're going to be happier in this internment camp. We're going to give you food. And you're like, no, but I live here. Yeah, it doesn't matter. We're going to put you over here. And so the South Vietnamese, they got furious, and we indoctrinated them into work for the North Vietnamese because they were so pissed off, right? And we kind of did the same shit in Afghanistan, right? We did the same. We didn't think about like, okay, if we're going to, or Iraq, specifically Iraq, if we're going to go into Iraq, this is my point of view from the outside. All right, let's fix the streets. Let's like build the schools. We did some of that, but if we're going to occupy it, let's fucking occupy it, right? Like let's seal it. Let's make a better life for the people, so they don't start getting pissed the longer we stay there, and they start, you know, hating us for being over there.
The U.S. did do some of that in Afghanistan, but we did not go after poppy fields. The British did, and others did. The U.S. was like, that's not why we're here. We're not here to be counter-drug. And it was good they did that, because for a lot of the farmers, that's the only income they had, and it paid the most. And yeah, did the Taliban take a cut off of it and all that stuff? They did. But we knew that if we started destroying poppy fields and we started doing all that, they would have no choice but fight against us, because they can't make money any other way, because no one's paying for potatoes.
All they did was the poppy fields.
Right. So it was like, luckily, a lot of the U.S., you know, again, Brits and others went after the poppy fields. The U.S. was like, we're not here to fight drugs. If they want to, we would walk right through those poppy fields. Like, that's not our problem. We're here hunting bad guys. And so luckily they did that. They would have that would have been a much worse war for us had they turned all those farmers, because that was the only thing they had. And luckily we did not really go after them. But other forces did, and they got their shit pushed in for it. I mean, they caught hell. The Brits caught hell for it. And they didn't have the security and the armament that we had. But yeah, so no, it's hey, we've been going for a while, Doug, and I appreciate it. We've been
No problem, man.
Wrong, but oh yeah, you're back on that mic. I can tell now.
Yeah.
Love these Shure mics. They're good.
Yeah.
But so what do you got? I want to just make sure we give our listeners and viewers just a little bit. What do you got going on now? What's your latest project, or what do you got doing that?
Well, my latest project is the play. I'm performing in Minnesota on the 14th of November, and that's going to be really cool. It's at the Reef. And then I'm going to be in Off-Broadway I'm going to be doing The American Soldier for about 4 weeks. On November 28th through December 21st at New York Rep. If you go to my website, theamericansoldiersoloshow.com, you can go to upcoming productions, and it's right there, the link. It's going to be on the west side of Manhattan. And so I'm really excited about that because, play is getting another Off-Broadway run, and hopefully it'll be a strong.
Tell me your dates, because I may be over in the city around that time. So
yeah, November 28th through December 21st.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the producers are really cool. New York Rep, I got to give them a shout out. Jeff Gerner and Gail Waxenberg, and they're big fans of the play, and they want to produce it, and they want to tell the story, and so they had a really good idea. So let's do a play with some edge and compete with some of the musicals, and I'm sure there'll be people who are looking for kind of like what they call a straight play, not a musical. So those are the next two things, and I'm really working on writing the book, and audition here and there for TV or for any acting gigs that come around. But that's and then running with my dog.
There you go. Now, your most recent one you did, is that the Gabby Petito Story? Is that the most project?
I did another small project after that, but that was the last big one I did. The Gabby Petito Story. I played her dad.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was great. It was cool. I got to work with Thora Birch, and I got to study that film, and I mean that story, and that story is very sad as well. That's the story of Gabby Petito, who loses her life, unfortunately. So it seems like stories of drama tend to follow me around. But
looking at your resume, I don't see a lot of comedies on there.
No, I never do comedies, man. I never have, and I would get auditioned for commercials all the time, and I remember telling an agent, I said, look, man, you need to just stop submitting me for commercials, because I don't have a commercial face. And I just, if it's not a hitman or a cop, I don't think I'm going to ever get booked. And because it's true, in acting, there's people who, like, you see commercial actors and they work all the time as commercial because they have a commercial face. And then you see people who don't work commercially, and it's because they don't have a commercial face. And I think I'm one of those.
There you go.
So
these people, when you've never done a commercial, and then later on in their career, they're doing a commercial, you're like, they can else. What are they? They're hemorrhoid medicine now. Wow. Right.
Yeah. I've turned down a couple commercial spots that were kind of, I'll keep the product off air, but I was like, no, I don't know if I want to be known for that guy.
Well, hey, man, thank you so much for coming to us on this very monumental day and a very tough week. I really appreciate you. I was concerned that you maybe it became, you wouldn't be able to do it because of everything going on, and you have to bail. So I was really glad that you were able to make it, man. It's good seeing you again.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and as I always say, thank you for your service. And after every play, to all the vets who are listening, thank you and your families for your service. And I always share, we can never thank you enough.
Yeah. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it. That's what keeps people going and doing it, man. That's it. So, we'll stay in touch. I'll let you know if I'm heading that way to the city in that time. I've traveled for Scott's show. If I can get over there, I would love to come over and see it. I've always wondered how it looked. So,
sure.
It'd be good to see you and give you a hug around your neck and maybe spill a punch or something.
That'd be great, man. That'd be great.
All right. Thank you so much, Doug. Thank you for coming. Everyone, make sure and check out our sponsors. Thank you. Make sure you like all of our socials, and everyone take a moment tonight. Make sure you say a prayer for our country in general, much less this holiday, but just this whole week. And just keep your thoughts with and just have people just become positive, learn from this, and grow from this, please. So
yeah, definitely, I would echo that, and I would just say, hug your family, hug your friends, or whoever, hug them tightly, because the one thing we've learned is tomorrow's not promised.
That's right, brother. All right, man. All right,
Peace out, man.
Take it easy.
You too.